Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is Go Again, a fabulous video cast covering the trading card game Flesh and Blood. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Hello everyone, welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Tonight we are talking moving from your local to Road to Nationals and beyond, talking about going from Blitz to Classic Constructed and everything involved with that. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in today. So today I'm joined by Joshua right over here and Jake Burns. He's been with us once before. How's it going? Jake?
Hey, we're doing well. Glad you guys are having me on the show again. It was a lot of fun last time.
Yeah, so Joshua had wanted to have you on to basically talk everything moving forward as, you know, the both of us are going through our evolution. So Joshua, I'll turn it over to you and take us away, baby.
Sure. So one thing is I played a lot of reps in Blitz, both locally for armory events and skirmishes, and I don't have a lot of reps in Classic Constructed. And now that Road to the Nationals has been announced and Classic Constructed is going to be the format for at least most of the rest of the year, I'm wondering, as someone who has extensive experience in Blitz, what do I need to know or what do I need to learn about how the game is different in Classic Constructed? Because I imagine there's not just people like me who are somewhat seasoned in Blitz, but also players who may be new to the game and have only played Blitz or in limited formats and now are wanting to or needing to branch out to the broader game constructed. And maybe there's advice I can get from someone who was the first American player to reach 1,000 XP about how do I need to adjust my game plan and prepare for constructed.
Well, there's definitely a few differences, and actually, I would say probably about 800 of my 1,000 XP was from Constructed. So I do have the most experience in that format over Blitz. In fact, I felt like I had to relearn how to play the game to learn to play Blitz coming from Constructed during these last skirmish seasons. But, you know, an obvious difference that everyone immediately is, you know, going to point out is the deck is bigger, right? You know, it's not just 2 copies of a card, it's 3 of each color tier. But a lot of people don't catch the fact that while you do have a 1/3 more cards, you actually have double the life. So that actually is, it's a bigger difference than it sounds at first. In Blitz, games go, or, you know, they're supposed to be fast, but, you know, my best analogy is like if you ever see 2 swordsmen passing each other, you know, like that old samurai showdown, and you don't know who wins until like they like sheath the sword and one just kind of falls over. You know, like that one strike fight, that's like Blitz, whereas, you know, an actual drawn out, like, you know, kung fu battle would be Constructed. You know, when it comes to like, I guess the state of the game, or, you know, the speed of the game, you know, more cards, more life, it's going to take a little bit longer, but it allows you to actually go with more strategies. You know, aggro wins in Blitz, right? Like, how many control decks in Blitz have we seen? None winning, right? And just the way the game progresses, it gives you a lot more options. You know, I like Constructed because I like to play a more mid-range style. You can win with aggro, but whoever has the most health is going to win, right? Like, Mid-range, we all saw Matt Rogers, Nationals, Callings, mid-range dash. It at first seemed to be a control-focused build, because he runs almost every defense reaction he can fit in there. Springboards, unmovables, fates, and sinks. But his real, goal is once he runs out of defense reactions to start applying pressure, which it's funny to say something like that because in Blitz, you're not gonna just like, all right, now half the cards in my deck are gone, so now we can really begin the game. Now, when it comes to deck building, like, obviously you're going to need to get the third card, right? But you're going to need to pick how you want your deck to win. You do have some leeway to kind of pivot, but you really have to follow your strategy from the beginning. Did any of you guys watch the Card Merchant charity stream? No? Okay.
I did not.
So it was great. There was a match between Kale McCreath and Dante Delfico on there, and it kind of really highlights the most important part of Constructed, which is the late game. Blitz, I feel the early game is the most important because as soon as you drop their hand or they have to commit their whole hand to blocking, it almost feels like the game is won. In Constructed, you could do this 100 times. In fact, some people's strategy is to just block with their whole hand and get through their deck. It's a huge difference, but obviously the game ends in the late game, but the real strategy happens in the late game in Constructed. You're blocking to make sure you have the health. Like if you're Bravo, you're blocking to make sure you have the health to not block for the late game crippling crush. If a wizard, you're not going to see very often, but if you're the wizard, you're pitching to make sure late game you have the cards you need coming off from Kano. It's weird to say one turn kill in Constructed, but Chane coming out, if you're playing the late game properly, you're pitching certain cards so you have them later. I watched in that match, Dante did about 46 damage in his last turn to win the game, because he pitched all his seeds of agonies and saved them for one turn where he had 9 soul shackles and got all 9 seeds of agony. So it isn't about I'm gonna hit you hard now. It's about just wait, bud. I'm gonna hit you really hard soon. In fact, that's what leads to certain heroes being more predominant than others in the format. You guys have any particular pointers? Let me pull up this list.
Yeah, I know Joshua had some questions specifically.
Yeah. So
so we talked, going back to the format a little bit. So obviously you get more cards and you get more life, but one thing I'm most unsure about is how to handle the sideboard, because in Blitz there is none, and so I feel like the design is mostly trying to build a balanced deck, but generally probably geared towards accomplishing what you want to accomplish and mitigating whatever your opponent's going to do to a certain degree. But with Constructed, with the sideboard, I feel like you have to make smart choices to give you the balance of counteracting whatever your opponent's going to do and accomplishing your goal. So when you're creating a sideboard, what kind of thoughts are you putting into it, or what considerations are you taking?
For me, I like to look at, if I'm coming to local comic shop, I'm going to think of who's going to be there, and try and think about what decks I will face. It shapes the whole deck. But for me, sideboarding is mostly pulling cards out, not putting anything in. And I know that might sound weird, because I know people who swear up and down all day that they want 60 cards only so they can get combos faster, right? Most TCGs, you run the minimum deck size so you can get to the big pieces faster. In Fab, I personally don't feel that way. Considering you're blocking with some of these cards, you're just sending them away, and the more cards you have, the more cards you can block with. But it if you know your meta, and if you're going to something like Road to Nats, the online meta is going to be important. And so, every time you see a tier list that you maybe don't agree with because of your local event, you can expect maybe that tier list came from the bigger online meta. So your sideboard is really meta dependent on what event you're playing. Like if you're going to the calling, your sideboard probably needs to be all encompassing. It needs to have something. You need big defense reactions against Bravo and Dorinthea. You need small defense reactions like Fates against Ninja to stop just that 4 on hit trigger going through. You might see a wizard, so you definitely want to have some null rune in there, but I doubt it. Locally, you could probably not put a single piece of null rune in and be just fine. The thing about sideboarding is it is your equipment and cards. So you have your 80 card deck. You're going to subtract your equipment from that 80 card total first, and then you're going to build your presentable deck to 60. And then so your wiggle room is really the difference between your 60 card deck and your equipment. So the choices you make there, it, like I said, it's more about removing cards. Like if you're playing against a Chane or a Viserai and they have a Reaping Blade, you're going to want to pull out your sigils. It's going to be a dead card in your hand. Maybe you could drop your life to play it, but that's not a getting hit to gain 3 life isn't a very sound strategy, right? If you're going against Brute, odds are he's going to be intimidating cards out of your hand. So big defense reactions in Arsenal are great, but if it's stuck in your hand, you might not have the pitch to play an unmovable, or you might not have the unmovable and the pitch, right? So that's a choice I make, is pull out larger defense reactions in that matchup. I prefer to have my equipment really be my sideboard, more so than the actual cards. I want Gambler's Glove against Brute. I want Null Rune Boots against Runeblade. Sometimes the Tunic is better than the Tectonic Plating, not very often. If you're anticipating blocking a whole lot, you might not be pitching to make the token every turn. So getting just an extra resource might be slightly better in that scenario. The equipment is really your biggest sideboard. In Blitz, you're spoiled. You get 11 pieces, so you never really thought about it. But in Constructed, if you build a 80 card deck and you only have 6 pieces of equipment, when you sit down, you only have 6 pieces of equipment. Including your weapon. Thankfully, the hero doesn't count. But sideboarding, you want it to be matchup dependent, but it's not the actual matchup. It's really more your meta, because ultimately the matchup, you just pull out the card that doesn't work. And then what's the next one?
Well, I know the big question we talked about earlier, obviously you go from 40 cards to 60 cards or more, right? One of the questions that people ask all the time is, well, am I simply just, copying my deck and adding a third card to it?
Absolutely not.
Right, yeah. So can you talk us through kind of the strategy on that, the key cards and whatnot?
Oh, yeah. So in Blitz, you're running cards for that format. The format itself is different. If you're Wizard, you want certain op cards like to build your combos. Ira, you either go more control with defense reactions and more aggro with just all the ones with go again, or 1 cost with go against. If you were to translate like a direct Ira deck that's just nothing but go again, 1 cost cards or 0 cost cards, put it into Katsu, and now you have your 60 card constructed deck. You'll find it's not going to work, because like we previously mentioned, is these heroes are going to tend to have their own strategy that they want to play like, but in Constructed, you're in it for the long run. So you really need to have a long-term strategy that just, an extra copy of certain cards isn't going to do it. Chane, for example, I think it's Sonata Arcanics. You're not going to see a Chane run Sonata Arcanics in Blitz at all. The setup, the chance for them to take Blood Debt, they'll lose the card on their turn. Or no, not Sonata. It's the Galaxies. It's the one that every time you play an attack action. What's that? Yeah, Dimensional. I think it's Dimensional Gateway or Crossroads. One of them. I should know it. I'm sorry, I don't. But you're not. The likelihood of you playing that card and maximizing its value in Blitz is very slim to none. But in Constructed, you have double the amount of turns to just rack up 1 damage over time every turn, or 2 damage every turn. So it can work a lot. Cards have better value in Constructed, actually, like all of them. Almost every card has better value in Constructed than it does in Blitz. If
that brings up a question, like I have, like, for the tech slot, so to speak, like most of my decks will run like glitched out there. Sorry, I was just saying that in most of my Blitz decks, I have like 1 Tome of Fyendal, but in Classic Constructed, is that a tech slot where I would want to increase that because the game's longer and there's going to be more turns where I might get some value out of that? Or is that something that would still be a 1 of in a 60 card deck?
I depending on the hero, I think Tome, if you're running Tome at all, it's going to be 3 in Constructed. Whereas in Blitz, if we're talking about like my Ira deck, I have 1 in there. It's a 3rd sigil for me, right? Like that was the slot it filled. Is I use that as a 3rd red sigil because if I played it at all, I was probably gaining only 3 life from it. And so in fact, Tome's a good card. So we know Ira is really aggressive. We don't see a lot of Katsu and Blitz, right? And Ira can't be in Constructed, but when you get Katsu, he can use a lot, Tome of Fyendal a lot, just like Ira would. I think the original winner of the calling was Sasha with a control ninja, and he ran all 3 Tome of Fyendals. He ran sigils. He ran every defense reaction because his main strategy, and which is what the Tome kept up with, was to just block, heal, and do Kodachis every turn. That was his strat. He was going to win with 20 Kodachis, getting through every turn. Like he wasn't going to do a single other bit of damage other than just the Kodachis hitting, over 20 turns. And so, I run 1 of Remembrance in Constructed.
That kind of leads to another question I had actually about,
What's up, Josh?
Sorry, I think we keep kind of interrupting each other. I was going to say that brings up kind of another question I have about how equipment use works, because in Blitz, your Snapdragon is going to be used at the most opportune time in a short format because it's going to get you a lot of value. Mage Master boots on a Tome would be great, but how do those equipments that are one-time use, is this in a longer format, is that late game or is it early game to get momentum? Like, how do you strategize your one-time use of equipment?
Finishers. I definitely think Snapdragon is a finishing card in Constructed. I briefly mentioned it earlier. In Blitz, the moment you drop their whole hand, you win the game. So you're going to use Snapdragon as soon as you see something spicy that you can Snapdragon in Blitz, right? Early game in Constructed, most people are playing very defensively. So if you Snapdragon early, and this is like, strategic, not so much deck building, but like I find that, the single use equipment, if you burn it too early, it might not have near as much value as it will in the late game. Because the same value it has in Blitz is the fact that your life is so low, and that why the pressure there is so strong that until you get them into, I don't know, Blitz range of life total, it won't have the same value. If I drop, if I first turn Snapdragons, let's say E-Strike for 8, then into a 5 damage card. That's 13. Takes your whole hand to block that, right? Because maybe max you can block 12 to like 16, depending on if your whole hand was, Fate Foreseens reds, right? So it might drop their whole hand. Okay, so they drop their whole hand, got 1 damage in, they just draw up, this, maybe my next hand isn't that great. So this time I only take 2 cards from them. They still have, 39 life and 2 cards in hand, and I'm down Snapdragons. Mage Master is a card that I've always thought about running, but have never actually ever run Mage Master. I can see, what Bravo wants to use it on Emerging Dominance, Stamp Authority, and Showtime. What Runeblade wants to use it. So I don't have a lot of experience with that particular card, but Snapdragons, Courage, the Warrior one, anything that you're actually going to destroy to use it, you're going to want to save it for the end of the game. Because going back to the analogy of the longer drawn out battle, you have so much health in Constructed compared to Blitz that, an early lead can turn into a very upsetting loss. Depending on how you play, if you're not playing for the long game. And the equipment is a huge, you start with all your resources at the beginning of the game and you dwindle down. Your equipment, seems just so disposable, but if you have 5 life and I'm, Snapdragon E-Strike for 8, it's going to have a lot more impact than if you have 40. So I would definitely say, as a general rule of thumb, your equipment is your tool to success at the end of the game, especially your one-shot uses items, and is completely contrasted different than in Blitz, where you just want to get that pressure out early. And then what do we got? Because CC is definitely more forgiving of mistakes, which is.
Well, that kind of leads into. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. What were you gonna say?
I was that leads to the next question I kind of have is, I'm curious, is I've played a lot of great games in Blitz, and a lot of times we'll have conversations afterwards, like if I would have played this one card differently, or if this would have happened, we can find singular moments that had a big impact in the game. And I'm curious, do you see that still in Constructed, or is it more forgiving as far as if you make a mistake or make a misplay, because it's a longer format, you have more time to recover? Or is it just more of those instances where one thing going differently would have had a profound impact?
Snowballing can definitely happen. That's how Dash wins, is you get to a point where you have to block every pistol and you just lose your hand for the rest of the game. But getting to that point, you have plenty of opportunities. At least at higher level play, the early game is just block and squeeze in damage. Block and squeeze in damage to set up major plays. If it'd be hard pressed to make a mistake early on, other than maybe taking too much damage, for a play that didn't trade as well. But even if you make bad trades, you can make a lot more bad trades in Constructed. You shouldn't ever be trying to make a bad trade, right? But if you mess up your sequencing, and you're like, hey, this turn would have been really good, but I messed up the sequencing and it blew it, right? In Blitz, that could cost you a match, but it won't in Constructed. Okay, well, just arsenal it, and wait for the next setup, because you have an extra card for your setups. You have an extra chance at pummeling, an extra command and conquer in Constructed. In back, we mentioned that article last time. There's more variance with your 60 card deck. Even most people are running more one-offs in there. Only reds, certain ones, or only blues. I rarely see people running all 9 of a color like you would in Blitz. So there's more draw variance over the course of the game, especially with pitching. So if you have a bad hand or your opponent has a bad hand, you can wait until you get a good hand, or you can wait until your opponent gets a bad hand. You have it's I want to say it's a more grueling format, but it's a more forgiving format. You're definitely doing a lot more thinking in Constructed if you're playing right. And if you're worried about making mistakes, switching from Blitz to Constructed, because you might have the mindset, the mindset of I need to go hard fast right now, and that causes you to maybe take a little bit more damage than you want to early on. A good way to adapt is, or get the flow, or make the switch. Is there's a dev video between Kel McCreth and Jason, I believe, playing Constructed. This is like 2-year-old video, 3-year-old video now at this point. And you'd be surprised on like how many hands you see them have that they're not playing. The just easiest way to adapt is Blitz is the short game, Constructed is a long game, and like by all means, like your strategy doesn't come to fruition until the very end. So when it comes to deck building, switching from Blitz to CC is how does this deck win later, as opposed to how does this deck win now. That would probably be the biggest thing to switch over. But I mean, the CC came out first, right? Blitz. I mean, they say Blitz was developed in Tangent, but CC was the game they made first. So it obviously is the one that they thought was the more reaching to the public. I really do firmly believe that just product shortages put Blitz into a spotlight. It's nothing's wrong with the format. It's a lot of fun. In fact, I think locally I was the first one to want everyone to try it out because I really wanted to use Ira since she was illegal. But the game was designed for CC, so the game should play better in CC. The game should be easier in CC. You have to get more cards, obviously, but most people will find that they like CC more. I mean, it's definitely an opinion, right? But the adaptation's real easy. You just want to win later instead of win now.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's all good stuff. I think we'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up here. Kind of one of the big questions we had tonight was, what is your parting shot advice, to call it that? What is your parting shot advice to someone who's making the transition for the first time? What's the most important thing they can do?
Learn the meta that they want to play in. Losing a game for an hour isn't fun, right? And that's going to be done through your choices. You can play any hero you want for fun, but if you're watching a video like this, you're obviously caring about the more competitive side. Your meta is going to shape your deck more than anything else. You can't, especially in Constructed, because you can just go download an IRA list and probably take it anywhere, right? It's gonna play the same. There's no matter who you're playing against, nothing's gonna change. You're just gonna play it the same way. It's gonna be an autopilot. I play Bravo in Constructed a lot. I have cards in there. I have 3 blue Stonewall Confidences. Probably never do anything with them other than using them in the ninja matchup because I know they're going to do lots of attacks, right? But I won't run Stonewall Confidence if there's no ninja players. Your meta is the defining moment of your Constructed deck because there's no in Constructed, since it goes back and forth so much, like, I've been saying, like, you have time to make mistakes, you have time to set up your late game, you have time to block and, take damage, you have plenty of time for all of these things. Your deck strategy can adapt mid-game to what you need to do, but if your deck isn't built around your meta, you'll never get that option.
Okay, fair enough. Joshua, do you have any parting shots?
Kind of to that point, just to kind of to go on to that same point you were just mentioning, if I'm a new Blitz player or a new player in general, and I'm going to Standard Constructed, would your advice be to pick a hero and just grind that hero out and learn it inside and out so you can know those different aspects of how they interact with the meta? Or would it be to pick something from the meta and learn that regardless of what your personal preference would be? If you're trying to be competitive, how do you make your choice? Are you trying to learn a lot of different heroes and how they work, or are you going to grind out one hero?
If you're going to watch this video and like, okay, I got it. This video has pushed me into competitive classic constructed. I'm going to every road to national. Starting from this moment forward, I would say pick one hero and stay with it. You know, I would hands down say that. And this is opposite of what I said with Blitz and just generally getting better at the game. Like if you're a new player and you want to learn the game, learn every hero you can, play it. And going forward in these competitive tournaments, and it's a different format constructed, I would definitely stick with one, because you can build in outs to every deck with constructed because you have the ability with your cards. Like I said, it's super meta dependent, but how you play is going to be how comfortable you are with the hero that you pick. If you play every practice session with one hero and you're like, you know what, I was losing the Chane, so I'm just going to bring Chane today in this one event, you probably won't do very well, because you don't have the reps with it. You don't know how he's going to handle other heroes. You have to really learn how you need to handle the heroes in your meta with that hero. I've showed people my Bravo deck that I bring to Fat Ogre to win with, and like they can't even believe it exists. But they're like, wow, this just doesn't seem good at all. But every card in there is an answer for one of you guys. No, for real. Like I have your Bravo staples and your Bravo strategies in there. But then so what I'm gonna do with the other 30 cards, right? Just kidding. Yeah. Yes. I would, you probably playing Blitz have found a hero you enjoy, right? At least, right? One of them. So I would try that one. And maybe I'm wrong because Monarch's out and we don't know, but you're not going to win with Azalea. You're not going to win with Kano. Viscerize, you might be able to do it, but it's going to be a hard one. You'd be the first one to, bring that to a higher tier. Almost all of the Wrathe heroes are top tier competitive. I would definitely, unless you're the biggest brain there is, I would stay away from Kano. I've gotten probably in my whole 2-year career like maybe 5 wins with Kano and constructed. It's a lot of fun to try it, but it didn't work. But all these Monarch heroes are in great places. And it'd be real easy to subtract just 2 heroes, pick 1 out of 10, and run with it, because the deck doesn't win, the player does. Your deck might give you an advantage, but the worst player in the game with the best deck isn't going to beat the best player in the game with the worst deck. And you get better as a player putting yourself in situations where you have to adapt and learn. And if you're maining one hero and focusing on that, your skills as a player are going to grow up, not your skills with that deck, if that makes sense, because you're going to learn how to maneuver using the tools in front of you. And it might even help you when you do branch out to other decks to see, how those other, play styles deal with the same problems you've been used to dealing with and what cards those are. So, learn the ins and outs of your favorite hero, not Wizard or Azalea, and you'll do well. I definitely think you'll do well. Kel's been playing Bravo since the game has begun, and if I were a betting man, he's the favorite for New Zealand Nationals right now, because Matt Rogers switches from the new hotness to the new hotness, where Kayo knows everything he needs to do with Bravo to win.
Okay. So shots fired right there. Predictions made. You heard it. You heard it first from Jake. Don't blame us, folks. Don't blame us. All right, great. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I know that this is something that Josh and I had been wanting to do for a while, so we really appreciate your time tonight. What do you got? What do you got coming up other than just your locals? You you shooting with all the announcements? You shooting for anything big or?
I'm going to Vegas, Dallas. I'm thinking about Florida because it's the same time as Nats. I'm hoping that I qualify for Nats somehow. Like if they did the cutoff right now, I know I'd be going. But you know, I want to get to as many of these bigger tournaments as I can. Most of the events I've done, you know, at a higher competitive level were the skirmishes, and those are actually almost all international. And you know, so I'm thinking that I can do pretty well here locally in these bigger events, because most of the time when I lose in these skirmishes, it's, you know, from the star player of another country. You know, at least at nationals, it's just us over here. So the goal is to make it there and then win nationals. That's definitely the goal. And so hopefully, you know, we can get all you guys out to Vegas, and you know, we can do a hangover with the boys.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that can work. I don't know. September's closer than you think. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, actually, scary how close it is.
Yep. All right, great. Well, just wanted to remind everybody out there watching that you know, we get our sealed product for, or at least I get my sealed product from Gone Guy Games, my LGS. We are playing in real life these days. We finally reopened the store. Thank you to our governor. Not really. But so we're back open and playing, so come out and join us this summer. And then if you're looking for singles, you can use the discount code below, or the link below, and you can go get stuff at Fab Foundry, and we get a small kickback from that as well. So with that said, Joshua, do you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
Oh, I got one.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Is it alright if I plug my stream?
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
I don't make videos like this. It's just all me playing, so it'd just be competitive playing.
So where do they find you?
Drakai Gaming at Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook.
Okay, I will make sure that we have a link in the description. So please check out Jake's stream as well on those platforms. So awesome. Well, with all that said, thanks again, Jake, for your time tonight. Everybody have a great week, and go Commando.
Go Commando. Thank you.